Hey folks, Jessica here. So I was originally going to do a completely different video today, but then Suptix happened, and when Suptix happens, you do a Suptix recommendation video. I also realized I haven't done one for the regular surprise ticket. I've only done it for the anniversary surprise ticket, which is a completely different beast. So if a quick recap for new players who have no idea what a surprise ticket is, it's a surprise special draw set. It costs about $30, depends on your currency. This is 3,000 mobile coins here. And when you buy it, you get a 10 pull, a premium 10 pull, and then you get a surprise ticket. And the ticket can be used to pick any character that's not limited. So, like, for example, if I want Jeanne d'Arc, I can just trade for Jeanne d'Arc, and I'll have Jeanne d'Arc plus her weapon. So these things are among the best values you're ever going to get in Granblue Fantasy. And something that, honestly, more gacha games should have, but only Granblue has it, as far as I know. So, if you were at all considering spending any amount of money in this game, this is the best way, pretty much, to spend it, besides the anniversary ticket, but that was a few months ago. Other things to note real fast, you can get any of these weapons. What is the classification of these weapons? These are the vintage weapon series. And you can also get any of the non-limited summons. So there's only a few here I would recommend, but that's something to keep in mind. If you're really lacking a summon, you can grab a summon. Or if you have tons of characters already, you can grab a weapon. But most people are going to get characters. So I'm going to give recommendations for every element. I'm going to give 3 recommendations for each element, and I'm going to give maybe an honorable mention or 2, depending on the element. Main thing here is I'm going to try and recommend characters that I think are not only useful for early game players, but ones that will carry on being useful into the mid and late game. I know a lot of people do things like recommend Yoda for like new players because Yoda does 1,000,000 plane damage. Well, Yoda also falls off really hard, in my opinion, when you get into late game, and doesn't fit in a lot of late game compositions outside of like teams that need to soak something with his substitute. So I'm going to try and avoid that because I don't want to give you a recommendation. I firmly believe like anyone who is going to invest in Suptix and play Granblue for any length of time is going to make it to the mid game, is going to make it to the late game. So I don't want to give you a choice that you're going to regret, say, 6 months down the road. So, yeah, there's 6 elements. I'm going to give 3 recommendations, and this video is going to be like an hour long if I don't limit myself on each of these explanations. So I'm going to limit myself to, let's see, a minute on each character. I've got a stopwatch here, and we're just going to blaze right through them. I can do more in-depth videos discussing characters later, but right now we're just going to try and speed through everyone, and let's go. Alright, recommendation number 1, Altair. He is my number 1 water recommendation because he is probably the most well-rounded buffer in the game. He's got a very solid attack up, defense up, water attack up buff that kind of mitigates the need to take rage on the main character. And then he's got a miserable mist-like effect, which also includes a water defense down when he gets leveled up. And again, this mitigates the need to take miserable mist on the main character. He grants you a lot of flexibility because he's got a lot of the effects you would normally have to take on Vegeta or Gran. His charge attack is pretty solid because it grants a good critical hit rate up buff. And then his third skill, Battle Plan Crescent Moon, 30% charge bar boost fits right in with Water's meta right now, which is charge attack all the time, every day, all day. He's got a buff to debuff success rate, which is just a nice gimme, but overall, Altair, very solid buffer, scales well in the endgame. Okay, next up is Lily. So Lily is a healer slash support. She gets a 70% fire damage cut, big mount, and more importantly, it gives you Spring Breeze. Spring Breeze is 3 stacks, and it activates every time the opponent charge attacks or special attacks, and it will heal the team plus remove a debuff from the team. This means if the foe relies on debuffing the team with charge attacks, you pretty much completely nullify that threat because every time they do it, you'll just strip the buff. She also has a very solid attack down, def down, and when whenever she uses her Silver Frost Barrier, she also gives you a Deluge Trust, which gives the team a passive defense boost. Now, another thing to consider is she does have a solid offensive buff in the fact that she has the water attack up on charge attack. All around, extremely powerful defensive character with a little bit of offensive support. Alright, everyone's favorite lesbian sniper is Silva. Song's girlfriend is a selfish attacker that is potentially one of the most damaging charge attackers in the game. Her charge attack gives her 20% dodge rate up buff, but the main thing is if you use it with Eagle Eye, she gets a 90% charge attack damage cap up plus a 200% charge attack damage up. It's very easy to do huge numbers with her. And then she can also give herself an instant full charge attack bar with Dead Specimen plus a 20% echo on it. My Silva hits for about 5 million on a charge attack and then echoes for another million, so 6 million on a charge attack. She gets a 75-75 crit hit rate buff, which is huge numbers. I don't think anyone has one that high. And then her charge bar fills faster, and random bonus, she will never miss a charge attack against foes with mirror image or dodge rate. Just overall, very solid attacker. Quick honorable mention for Water Yule. Mostly didn't pick her because she is another support character and I'd only recommended 2 support characters. You can use her for a mist-like effect, just like you can with Altair and Drang. But the main difference between her and them is she gives you a multi-attack buff, which is fairly hard to get from water characters. So if you are desperately in need of multi-attack, she's a solid pick and definitely gets an honorable mention. Okay, onwards to fire, and I'm going to follow up that water Yule recommendation with a fire Yule recommendation, because OG gay foxes, I guess. She is what I would consider an all-rounder. None of the tools in her toolkit are particularly game-breaking, but together she has a very solid kit. Her double attack rate up buff is whatever, but her Gurren skill gives the team a 20% fire damage echo, which is very significant for burst, especially combined with something like Shiva. And then she also has a heal that removes a debuff, so very solid clarity-like effect. My cat agrees. And then she gets a fire attack buff to the entire team, which also boosts her healing cap and healing. So all around, very solid package. She's not going to carry you through content, but all her tools together are going to be welcome pretty much at any point in the game. Okay, next up is Athena, defensive character. She's got a decent charge attack with a fire attack up and an armored buff on it. Her damage cut is not that big, it's only 40%, but it works against any element because of Wind Switch, and it comes with Refresh, so nice bonus, especially since fire is leaning more stamina these days. She's got a decent def down that's stackable to 40% with a burn on it and a nuke in Tetradactyl. This initially doesn't seem that great, but keep in mind that she will cast this every single time an enemy targets her once she's at maximum Goddess Wrath stacks. So once she has some time to build up, she'll just start popping these off non-stop, and she has a hostility up on her EMP, which lets her, again, get these off more often. And then she has a double attack down, blinded, and delay on one skill against all foes. This is significant. The delay on that shorter cooldown is really helpful for preventing charge attacks, and the blind is just a really good auxiliary effect. Solid all-around character. Okay, so this next one is Therese, and I was really torn between Therese or Percival being this recommendation. They're both solid attackers. I'm going to give it to Therese because she is also a decent tank. She gives herself a sharp dodge rate boost and with duel, and 100% triple attack plus 80% fire, huge 80% fire echo. The drawback there is she lowers her own HP, so it's not, for longer fights, I would probably lean Percival instead. But the big thing is she can reset the cooldown on her skills with her 3 skill, and this allows her to keep these buffs up a lot longer than she really should be able to, allowing her to tank for quite a number of turns. She also synergizes well with Enmity because her dodge rate increases as she gets lower HP, meaning she can survive at lower Enmity, plus she has an Enmity EMP. Very powerful attacker, plus a decent tank. Okay, so honorable mention Percival, though you can flip Percival and Therese, just depends on the day you ask me. Real simple character, another solid attacker. His charge attack allows his 1 to activate twice, doubling the damage and the healing from Drain. His utility is a Petrify effect. Main thing of Petrify is it stops the foe from gaining charge diamonds, but it's only an 80% land rate, so it's not 100% reliable. And then his 3 skill is for when he wants to burst. It's a huge buff with stamina, fire attack up, and fire echo, which is again reinforced by his passive, which gives him more fire attack up. Main reason I put Therese ahead is she can effectively double the uptime of her skills with her reset, whereas Percival's uptime is actually pretty low with this effect. It's only 3 turns for an 8-turn cooldown. Onwards to Earth with Dante and Freyheit. We're putting them on this list because Freyheit is a kitty, but also because they're an amazing attacker. They have a buff called Black Cat Fancy. It refreshes every 5 turns to 5 stacks, and it causes their charge attack to hit for more damage, but more importantly, when you use it with their 2 skill, they get a guaranteed triple and martial cat, which increases their damage by 200% and 100% damage cap up, which is an astronomically huge number. Then they also have, kind of like the Luchador effect, tag team. They can attack out of sequence by using their 3 skill. On top of all that, sometimes Freyheit will buff the team randomly with a buff, while they have Cat Got Your Backup. I love the name of all these. It activates every turn. The buffs are nice to have. They're random though, so not super reliable, but all around, extremely powerful attacker. Siegfried, who I will say really wants to be 5-star to get the full benefit from him, even though when he becomes 5-star, he starts facing the wrong way in combat. Really kills me. At 5-star, he will echo every turn on his charge attack. Normally it requires break, but at 5-star it doesn't anymore. And echo is a significant amount of extra damage. He has a damage cut to the whole team at 5-star, but it's only 20%, so not that exciting. His self buff, Manigance, gives him a really significant attack boost. It's 60% attack. And normally it comes with a def down, but at level 100, the def down becomes a def up. So this is why he wants 5 stars. It's all benefit at that point. He can also drain the foe's mode bar and give himself some charge bar. Nice bonus, but in general, he's just a really beefy attacker. Hallacena. So she used to be a really decent attacker, but needed to be defended by characters that had substitute or damage cuts to keep her buff rolling. But then they reworked her, and now she's actually a lot more self-efficient and a pretty amazing attacker. She is my favorite buff in the game, which is Divine Death Saw of Death. And that increases attack damage cap and multi-attack rate, raises every turn by 1, and then lowers by 2 if she takes damage. It used to completely reset and give her a debuff if she got hit. Now it just drops by 2, and now she can also manually raise it with her 2 skill. So it's a lot easier to stack that now, and it becomes a very big deal. She can also give herself other self to dodge 2 attacks, and that'll last until she's hit. So now she's a lot more self-sufficient. So it's easier to get her rolling, and it's easy to keep her rolling. And when she gets rolling, she does so much damage. Next is Best Girl Cagliostro. I'm picking her here because she is one of the few Suptixable Earth buffers. She's got a def down on her 1 skill. It's not a huge def down, but, you know, it's a def down, single-sided. And she has a very strong buff in Phantasmagoria. It gives the team a crit rate up, plus Reverse Ouroboros, which is a multi-attack rate buff, plus attack and defense up buff. It's a very strong buff. Main issue is its uptime is low. Kind of low. It's got 3 turns uptime for 7 turns duration. And then she has a heal on top of that, and she'll auto-revive herself if she dies. So overall, pretty solid buff character. Let's move on to Wind, and let's talk Urias. Urias is an extremely powerful debuffer. So he's got a def down, attack down that's stackable up to 40%. Thing is, it stacks with everything. It stacks with like double-sided and single-sided debuffs, so it's very easy to hit the caps with him. It also has a random debuff that it can inflict, but the main thing is He has a 0 turn cooldown. It costs him 10% of his charge bar, but he can cast as many times as he wants because it's a 0 turn cooldown. So it's very easy to hit the cap with that. Also, he's got a delay, which is nice, and he can dispel, which is also nice. But every time he uses a skill, and again, remember, 0 turn cooldown, he builds Truth Seeker up to 10 stacks, which increases his charge attack damage and charge attack damage cap, so he can easily pump out a lot of damage once he starts casting his skills a bunch of times. Wind Hallacena. Wind Hallacena is an extremely powerful attacker that is kind of survivable because she has a lot of dodge. She gets a wind attack up on her charge attack plus a charge attack up on her charge attack, and she can give herself mirror image. This works very well with Reckoning Day, her 2, which gives her triple attack guaranteed and bonus wind damage as long as she doesn't take damage. And then, again, she has bonus dodge rate because of her passives plus bonus attack. So she ends up being pretty self-sufficient. But the big thing is Royal Litany. It is basically Team Overdrive Assassin. When she pops it, you're going to annihilate a boss that's in Overdrive. It's an extremely, extremely powerful effect. Granblue's most popular character, and some personal bias here because she's my favorite character. If you doubt me, look at all the versions of her there are. She is a very strong attacker that uses some unique mechanics that I find really, really interesting, which is partly why she's on this list. So her big mechanic is Plan B. You can't activate it until 3 turns into the fight, but when you do, she summons a giant robot version of herself, and she starts doing significantly more damage. Plus, her skills get bonus effects. Primal Wave for 2 becomes a 50% def down, so it caps the enemy's def down by itself, and a Petrify. And then her 3 skill becomes a nuke that gives her guaranteed double attack plus triple attack up and a 30% wind damage echo. Plus she AoEs whenever she attacks with Plan B up. And then she knocks herself out. So obviously only use her in shorter fights, but for shorter fights she's a very powerful character. Alright, onwards to Light. We're going to start with a Light attacker, Light Charlotta. She's like Hallacena in that she builds stacks of a buff. This one's called Holy Knight. When she's not hit, and if she is hit, it will lower her stacks. She gets an attack up, a damage cap up, and a multi-attack rate buff when she has Holy Knight stacks up. And when she hits 5 stacks, if she charge attacks, she'll get a buff that is 30% Light Echo. So she is extremely potent if she manages to build up her Holy Knight stacks, which is pretty easy to do because she knows to defend herself with her 2 skill, True Chivalry, gives her unchallenged, so she doesn't take damage from an attack, and she can lower dark attack down and has a chance to inflict attack down just in general with her regular attacks, and accuracy down for 1 skill. So she's also a good debuffer on top of everything else. Very solid character. Jeanne d'Arc, the Light Jeanne d'Arc. OG Jeanne d'Arc. All-rounder, very, very solid all-rounder. Gives all allies a light attack up and a dark damage cut on her charge attack. Great. This is really significant. Her reversal skill is a def down, attack down, but because of a quirk of the skill, it stacks with Miserable Mist. Normally, this kind of effect should not stack with Miserable Mist because it's double-sided. That's a discussion for a different video. With Miserable Mist, these two will basically def down and attack down cap the enemy, which is huge. Encouragement is Altair's charge bar boost. It 30% charge bar boost the whole team. Really good effect. And then Advent Eternal, guaranteed triple and a stamina boost. So she also has Battle Standard, which gives the whole team an attack boost based on how high her HP is, and it's a 15% boost at full health. So that's a solid buff that synergizes very well with Light's stamina play. Light Fairy, still extremely good character. She is a bit of a gimmicky character and requires a lot of setup, but her effect is pretty timeless. The main linchpin is her 3. gives all allies 100% triple attack and a 30% echo for 4 turns, which is huge. But it does require all allies to have 100% charge bar. So you're going to have to do things like use strike time or use effects that give the whole team charge bar, like Jeanne d'Arc, for example. And it inflicts shorted on allies so they can't build charge bar, but that is removable with clarity. So typically you'll use her 3, clarity to remove shorted, and then over the course of 4 turns beat the shit out of the enemy with your guaranteed triple plus echo, and then activate her 2 skill and use all that charge bar you built up to basically blow them up again. That's the basic play. Very solid character, requires some finesse. Still a top tier character, judging from her very common usage in the last United fight. On to Dark with Azazel. So, strong Dark attacker, inflicts, or rather, gives himself mirror image on charge attack, very useful defensive ability. Can inflict blind with a 25% Dark Death down, very nice, single-sided, and then can also poison the enemy, usually not that big a deal, but has good synergy with his passives with Sec. Can give himself 70% Dark attack up, though does make himself vulnerable light damage. 70% is a lot of extra damage, so very nice for burst. Big thing is, he dodges more against foes that are blinded, and then crits against foes that are poisoned. So that's in that way that he synergizes with his own skills. He also does more charge attack damage against foes that are blinded and poisoned. He falls off a lot against characters that can't be blinded or poisoned, so keep that in mind. But overall, very solid attacker. Dark Jeanne d'Arc. Contrast to Light Jeanne d'Arc, she's a selfish attacker like most of Dark's characters. Strong charge attack with Dark attack buff to the team and a light damage cut. Can def down. Incision is a self buff that grows for 5 turns and crashes on turn 6. Big trick with her though is Eternal Chaos. Gives her complete invulnerability. She can't die, and then she's knocked out after the 5th turn. This is removed. The knockout part is removed if she can get to full HP before then. So the trick of her usually is you use Eternal Chaos with stuff like Le Poussile d'Arc, which is an enmity buff, and you just let her get really low health and don't worry about it because she's not going to die. She'll just stay forever on 1 HP. It's fine. And then when she's about to be knocked out from Eternal Chaos, you just top her off with pots and she keeps on going. That's the basic play of her. Extremely, extremely potent if used correctly. Alright, Vanya, Vampy. I have to recommend her because I'm pretty sure someone would get real mad at me if I didn't, but she's also amazing these days after her 5-star increase. She does significantly more damage against charmed foes, which she can inflict, and she has the Vampire Drop mechanic. Vampire Drops are spent to give bonus effects to a couple of her skills. It makes her one skill do Dark Death Down in addition to being a Dispel and a high damage nuke. It makes her Charm Throb, which is normally just a charm and big stat buff for reasons. It makes it a guaranteed charm, which is huge because charm very often misses. And it gives her a whole bunch of stat boost with Blood Queen and guaranteed triple attack, in addition to making her shoot bats at the enemy at the end of turn for around 600k damage. In addition to all that, she has a delay, and when she delays the opponent, it charges everyone's charge bar. She's just the total package. Really, really, really good character. Alright, honorable mention for Dark, Kalulu, because I'm picking her. Part of that is because I don't have her and I have all the other characters I recommended. But also, she gives you a substitute all ally effect for Dark, and that's a very rare effect for Dark. Nicholas has it, but I think she's certainly better than Nicholas, so she's kind of a toolkit, a tool pick for my teams. It gives me a tool I don't normally have a lot of. Right, so we're at the end of the road here with my recommendations, and I'll give you one more. Whoever your favorite waifu or husbando is, regardless of how good they are, it is natural for me to recommend characters that I think are going to be useful for you in terms of strength or the tools they bring. However, a Suptix is your own choice. It is the one chance you're going to get to pick whatever character you want. And if you want to make that a character you like, because you like their art, you like their voice, you like their story, whatever, go ahead, do it. Like, I'm not going to stop you. That's totally fine and totally valid. So, if you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe. This took a while to put together, actually. Surprisingly longer than I thought it would. And as I mentioned a bunch of times now, I'm trying to lean more on doing YouTube videos consistently. So if you can check out my Patreon or sub to me on Twitch or anything like that, that would be super appreciated. So now that we're all finished up, I will go ahead and pick Kalulu, because as I mentioned, she is my pick for this time around. And there we go. Catch you guys next time. And remember, you can join the Discord if you want to chat with me in person. Well, online. And yeah, see you guys later. Bye.